In today's Scrapbuster video, we're going to make one of these adorable little boxy bags. It's shaped sort of like a sports duffel or a makeup bag, only it is such a small and fun size. With the optional lobster clasp, you can connect it to your backpack or your tote bag. You can throw this in your purse and keep all your little items organized. You could use it as a gift and add some personality with some fun fabrics. It's constructed completely from quilt cotton and some interfacing. We've got a zipper in there and the optional clasp. The pattern is designed with fully lined interior in a coordinating fabric, and you have no raw seams, no binding, and no ugly seams in there. It's done very nicely, and we're going to learn some fun techniques in doing that. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we're going to use in our project today. I've got the quilt cotton all cut and interfaced and ready to go. I have cut 4 pieces, 2 for the exterior and 2 for the interior. They are all cut at 7.75 inches wide by 5.5 inches long. And then our tabs are cut at 2 inches wide and 3.5 inches long. I've interfaced the exterior with medium weight fusible interfacing, and I've cut it a 1/2 inch shorter in each dimension and centered it and attached it according to manufacturer's instructions. I have done something similar here with the tabs, but the interfacing here is 1 inch by 3 inches, and it is centered and attached according to manufacturer's instructions. I've done something a little different for the interior. I have cut it so that it's a 1/2 inch narrower, but I've actually cut it so that the length is 4.75 inches, and that's going to give us a little bit larger margin here at the bottom, but I've got it offset just a 1/4 inch on all of the other sides, and you'll see why as we create our mini box bag. The 2 other ingredients we've got, this is an optional swivel clasp, and then a zipper. The zipper needs to be just 12 inches or longer. In addition to these materials, you are going to want to pick out some thread to use in your project. The thread is going to show on the exterior fabric when you do your top stitching, so keep that in mind. And also some fabric glue. I like Fabri-Tac because it doesn't gum up my needle and it dries really quickly. And to box out our bag, we're going to need a ruler. I like this little quilting ruler with a 1 inch grid and a fabric marker. In addition, I love to use fabric clips throughout the construction process to kind of hold things together so things don't shift and fall apart. With everything assembled, and without further ado, let's go ahead and get sewing. We're going to start by installing our zipper. For this step, I've got my lining panels and my exterior panels, plus my zipper and some sewing clips. I'm going to take one exterior panel and lay it right side up, oriented the way that I want it in my finished product. And I'm going to take the zipper and lay it right side down on top of that. My personal preference is to put the zipper pull off to the side just so that it's out of the way. If your zipper was a lot shorter, you may not be able to do that, but it does make the sewing process a little easier. I'm going to clip that, take it to the machine, and baste stitch at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, with this basted in place, and I've snipped all the loose threads, which I'll be doing throughout the process, I am ready to attach one of the lining panels onto the zipper to make a zipper sandwich. And I'm going to attach it with the interfacing side that is just a 1/4 inch from the top. We'll leave this larger interfacing margin at the bottom here. And I'll line that up, clip it in place, take it to the machine, and stitch it in place with a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance. When I stitch, my preference is to stitch with the zipper teeth up regardless of which fabric panel I am sewing on. Okay, we have got the zipper halfway installed here, and if we flip our lining and exterior panels right sides out and smooth that nicely, I'm going to press it in place. Now I'm going to take this back to the machine and top stitch. And with that top stitching done, I'm ready to repeat the process with my second set of panels. This time my zipper pull will be on the opposite side. I'm going to set this aside while we work on our strap loops. I've got my iron heated up and ready, and I'm just going to fold these long sides in, kind of using that interfacing as a guide. Quickly press that in place and fold in again. We're completely closing those raw edges. And I'll take this to my machine after I get the other one prepped, and I'm going to stitch up both long sides. I'll stitch across one end just so that I don't have to take out of the machine between doing the sides. I'm going to set that aside, and we'll do the other one. Okay, I am going to use some glue and a few clips. I've got the lobster clasp handy, and I'm going to take our little strap loops and slip a lobster clasp on one of them. I'm using some glue and a clip, and I'm going to let that sit while I prepare our next little strap. Okay, now I'm going to attach these straps to our main body. First, I want to open this zipper up. Make sure the zipper is in the open position, and I like to put my lobster clasp on the edge with the closed zipper. So I'm going to attach that right there. Put down just a little bit of glue. And that's going to lay right on top of the zipper itself. Gluing it in place and clipping it in place. I'm going to do the same over here. I'm having these tabs hang over just very slightly. Make sure we catch them in our stitching, because now I'm going to take this to the machine and stitch up these sides, and I'm going to go back and forth over those zipper teeth. Make sure the zipper teeth on the open end are pushed closed all the way, and we'll secure that and then trim our excess zipper off. Okay, the project's coming along really nicely. At this stage, I am gonna reorient it so that our exterior panels are together and our lining panels are together. I'll line up this edge and clip. I'm gonna line up the lining edge and clip also, but I want to leave a 3.5 inch opening to turn the bag through after it's sewn. So I'm going to use my ruler and mark that opening. I'm not going to sew past these lines. So here I'll take a 3/8 inch or a centimeter seam allowance and sew that up, and I'm going to sew up just to the line and then skip and start here and sew up this end from the line to the corner, back stitching really well where I have made my marks. For the lining, I am going to use the interfacing as a guide, and I'm going to sew just off the interfacing. So I'm taking a larger seam allowance on the lining, just a little bit larger than what I took on the exterior. Okay, I have my iron heated up now, and I am going to iron this exterior seam open. Just going to pull it aside here and press it. For our lining, we're going to do something a little bit differently. We could press our seams open and close off this lining the traditional way with some exterior stitching, but I'm going to do something that's just a little more discreet, and that method is going to require us to press this to the side. So instead of pressing that seam allowance open, we're going to press it to one side, and it doesn't matter if you press it to this side or if you press it to this side. We are just going to press it to one side. At this point in the process, we are going to do another little fold or reorient, and this seam that we've made here, we're going to match that up with the center of our zipper. And so I'm going to look at this here and match those lines up and clip it. Because this is a really important section to have line up perfectly, I'm going to put in just a little bit of glue, and I'm going to glue and clip so it does not budge. Just takes the smallest amount of glue, and then I'm going to get to where I can see really well and line that up. I'm going to do the same thing for the exterior on the other side, making sure I've got my clasp out of the way. Okay, I'm not going to worry about the glue for the lining. but I am going to still match up these seams with the center of our zipper and fold that in and clip using the same clips. Okay, you can see how this looks now. Just want to make sure I have no little puckers in there. Our fabric is smooth. I'm going to take this to the machine and sew a 3/8 inch or 1 centimeter seam allowance along both sides. Okay, with the sides sewn up, I'm going to go ahead and trim down these corners, making sure not to snip into my stitching at all. And I'm ready to turn this and I'm using my fingernails to gently poke out those corners. You are welcome to grab a turning tool if you like. Sometimes I use the blunt end of a paintbrush for this. Okay, I've got this lining side out and I've opened the zipper all the way to keep that zipper pull out of the way. I'm going to follow the manufacturer's instructions. This is Stitch Witchery, and the manufacturer wants me to use a steam iron and steam this down. This is going to make some noise here, but I've got my steam iron out. And I'm going to hold the steam iron over that Stitch Witchery to soften it. I'm not actually going to touch anything, I'm just going to hold it in there. And now I can lay the fabric down over the Stitch Witchery and press in place. And I find that if you follow the manufacturer's instructions really carefully, this hemming tape does a really good job of closing that seam up. Okay, you can check that and make sure that the seam has been closed and sealed nicely. And then we get to turn this right side out. I'm going to press my corners just a little to make sure they're nice and square. Okay, this is the fun part. We now have a flat pouch and we are going to box it and turn it into a boxy pouch. To do this, we're going to use a French seam, and we're simply going to press these corners so that the side seam is centered and our corner is at the tip of a V here. I do want to make sure that all of the fabric layers are smooth in there. And I'm going to take this ruler and I am going to measure 3/4 of an inch from the tip. I'm going to make sure it's straight by seeing how the bag lines up here with these marks. And once it looks the way I want, I think everything's nice and straight, I'm going to use a fabric pen and mark that really well. Then just to hold that fabric nice and flat, I'm going to stick some clips in. I'm repeating this process for all 4 corners, smoothing out the fabric, centering that side seam, measuring, making sure my line is straight, marking it. Okay, this is how our box bag looks so far. Now I'm going to go to the machine and I'm going to stitch right where my lines are on each corner. I'm going to make sure I back stitch really well at both ends and go off of the edge if needed. I want to make sure I get the whole seam stitched up. This is the state of our boxy bag, and we have boxed the corners, but now we're going to do a French seam on those. And the first step is going to be to snip the corners off, close to but not snipping through any of our stitching. I'm just going to leave a very small seam allowance there. I'm going to snip each corner. Okay, you can see I've snipped the corners off. And now I'm going to turn the entire thing lining side out. I'm going to push each corner out really well. And then I'm going to press it on both sides. I want to make sure that all of that fabric in there is smoothed out nicely. And then I'll do the next corner the same way. At this point, all that's left is to stitch up our box corners one more time. We're going to enclose those raw edges that are on the outside of the bag by taking a 1/4 inch seam allowance and stitching along each box corner. If you choose, you can change your thread out so that it matches the lining, but this is going to be very subtle because it's tucked inside the corner of the interior, so that's totally optional. We are ready to turn this right side out and see how it looks. We've got our French seams sewn up and all of those raw edges are enclosed. Okay, here we are, our mini boxy bag. Our French seams turned out beautifully. Everything looks nice and square and boxy and cute. If I want, I can run the iron over that just a little. But I think it looks pretty great, and I think I'm going to call that one a wrap. You can see how subtle that seam is in the bottom where we used the hemming tape. Doesn't that look nice? And you really can't hardly see those French seams in the corner. You kind of have to turn it inside out to be able to see those. So those look really good too. And with that, our scrap buster is el fini. And that concludes our mini boxy bag scrap buster tutorial for today. If you have any questions or suggestions or great ideas for how to use this mini boxy bag, go ahead and drop them in the comments below. If you want to help my channel, please like and subscribe. And as always, until next time, happy sewing.